You're listening to the Moody Mommies podcast.
Audio warning. You may or may not hear kids screaming and yelling in the background, or us screaming or yelling at them to keep it together.
Alright guys, it's your Moody Mommies here. I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Jessica.
And we are still continuing all of the conversations about Schmishmortions.
Yeah, so last episode, if you guys haven't heard it, the two of us read over a few stories from moms that sent them in to us. And this time we are going to have
a couple guests.
We're going to have guests tell their own story. So that way you could really, the impact is so much stronger when you hear it from their own voices.
Yes.
One of the stories is very, very emotional. So I think we're going to keep that one for the end.
Yes.
And we're going to start off with my friend Brianna. And I just want you guys to know that I was not being sensitive at all during this topic.
It's okay.
It's not okay.
I mean,
it's kind of okay, but
it's every situation is different. Yeah. So, you guys will hear it yourself.
Yeah.
So,
and Bri is my friend, and like we said in the last episode, this is a serious situation, we know, but we're just not serious women.
Right.
So I heard the story before. It wasn't like something that was news to me, and at this point in our lives, like 10 years later, we've turned it into a joke, even though it shouldn't be.
It is. As long as she's okay with her decisions and she can laugh about it, hey.
Yeah. But I had a lot of fun in the conversation. I think
it was a good conversation. Yeah. You guys are going to crack up a little too.
Yeah.
But if you're offended, we apologize.
Yes. But like we said, it's about abortion, so fair trigger warning.
It's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster, guys.
Yeah, and this is going to be probably our very longest episode ever.
Very.
So in the show notes, I'll put in the times where each new story begins. So that way, if you want to listen to something in particular, or, you want to skip something else, you need to come back to it later.
You guys got to hear it all.
You do have to hear it all, but it's going to take some time to get through it. So if you have a work day and you could just plug in and listen for 3 hours, that's probably how long this is going to be.
Probably the best way to go.
But
we also want to thank everyone for the amazing feedback that we've been getting about this topic. And it's just so heartwarming. Me and Jessica, we take time away from our kids and our busy lives to make time to make these episodes for you guys, and we really enjoy doing it, and it's so amazing to hear that you guys are enjoying hearing it. So
yes,
we hope you enjoy.
How are you?
Hello.
Oh yeah, Vanessa's on the line too.
Hi Vanessa. Hi Tooch. Hi everyone.
Ooh.
How are you? I'm well.
Are you ready? Are you cooking?
I'm totally ready. I'm cooking dinner. I'm cooking dinner, but I'm totally ready.
Okay.
All right. I guess I should introduce you. All right, Moody Mommy. So this is one of my very best friends. Wait, are you staying anonymous, or are we saying who you are?
No, you can say who I am.
Okay.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure.
Totally.
Okay. Brianna, and I've talked about her in other episodes about like how she's the craziest person with a million kids, but.
In the best way.
In the best way. And I've been dying to get you on the podcast. I know I tell you almost all the time. When am I recording with you?
I've been dying to get on.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
We hear you got some stories to share.
Yeah.
I've got stories, girl.
I know. So basically, why don't we start at the beginning with your first baby?
Okay. Well, my first baby is Alessa. And she is 12, going to be 13 this year. And I had her in 2006 when I was 18.
And that's when I met you. So you
and that's when we
with
met,
child.
right. We met years and years ago when we were working together, and so that was my first baby. And I had her with Matt, which is this guy that I met in high school, and that didn't work out. So that's that.
But
And
they
then
made you like your parents made you guys get married, right?
Yes. So my parents are very traditional Filipino, and they were really concerned, like, is she going to be born out of wedlock type thing? And so they had us get married, and we had this like huge wedding.
You did?
And
I've never seen a single picture.
Wow.
Oh my God. No, because I buried it really, really far deep. It's buried very far.
Did they make you get married in church?
Yeah, I mean, they set up the whole thing. Like, I had no say in it. It was like my mom's dream wedding. And I was huge. It was like the worst thing ever. I'm so glad there were no pictures because I was like 8 months pregnant. I was massive. So that's that. Like, not even a year later, we got a divorce because, just you're asking 18-year-olds to get married. And that's like the worst recipe. It's a recipe for disaster. So
yeah, because by the time I met you, you guys were already not together.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So it was like it took less than a year to get a divorce, but we weren't together for already, like, you know what I mean, months. So yeah, that was that, and we just kind of had to move on from there and kind of work it out from there. But yeah, it was definitely not good times for a long time because my mom was like super sad and disappointed. And
by the time we met, you were kind of in the dating circle again.
Right, yeah. So I was already on the market, dating, on the prowl, looking for some dudes.
I love
trying to ruin people's lives, and was very successful at that. I was pretty successful at that.
We both were, and I think that was like what bonded us so much is because we were both like 19 years old, out of our minds, ruining boys' lives.
To manipulate men.
Yes, like just reckless with people's feelings, ours, everybody. I mean, it was just, but it's fun. It was just so fun. We were just like, okay.
It was, but you like talked me off the ledge so many times. There, you have the friends that are like, no, it's probably not a good idea. And I'm like, Brianna, I am gonna get this guy, and blah 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 blah. You're like, let's go then, let's go.
Yeah. You're like, I'm like, where is he? Let's do this. Let's go. All right, let's go. Whatever.
And I'm like,
what's the worst that can happen? We can just crash and burn. That's all. It's not a big deal.
You're like, if that's what you want to do, I'm here. And I was like, never mind. I think it is a bad idea.
Yeah. You're like, now that we're so close, forget
it. Okay, so then you started. We started dating guys like around the same time, right? You met somebody from the area we were hanging out in.
Yes. Which one was this one? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I'm talking about Chris already.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we're talking. So, right. Yeah. So I met a guy named Chris, and I super smitten with him. You could totally we could just not mention his name, but yeah, I was super smitten with him, and it was like very short after I broke up with so he was like the guy, like, oh yeah, he's giving me attention, like, oh, this is it, I'm gonna totally latch onto this guy. So that was the guy that I latched onto for like a year, and then are we already talking about the abortion?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
If you're ready.
So, we had been dating for like, I don't know, like for sure less than a year, maybe a little bit over half a year. And we were just having super, super unprotected sex. And,
super,
lo and
like
behold, super, like really super. And then, I got pregnant, and, it was really not a question after that. It was just like, I think Alessa was already maybe not even one, maybe only one. And so I was like, no, I can't have another baby. I can't have another baby with another guy. Like, no, I'm good on that.
I'll never forget when you found out. I mean, all your pregnancies pretty much, but like that time we're at work and you like go into the restroom at our job, take a pregnancy test, and you come out and you're just like, holy shit.
distraught.
I'm pregnant again. And our store manager was there, and she's just like, oh, what a blessing. And you're just like, no.
Last thing from a blessing. Yeah, I was like, no, that's who says that? Crying my eyes out. No, thank you.
But you were like still in love with him, so you just because Alessa was little, did you felt like, no, I don't want to do this, or what?
Yeah, and I also it was just too fresh of a wound, you know what I mean? It's too fresh of a memory, like having a baby that young, traumatizing, just because like I have no idea how to take care of myself, and then I barely know how to take care of my baby now, and how am I going to take care of another baby? You know, it was just no question. It was like we have to terminate because it'd be too difficult. He didn't have a steady job. I didn't have a steady job. It would be a mess. And we're always constantly on the rock. We had to terminate because it would have been a total mess, you know?
So let me backtrack a little bit because I don't even think we've ever talked about this. With Alessa, when you found out you were pregnant with her, was it ever a question there, or was it just like, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm having a baby?
It was definitely something that we talked about, but because we were just so young, because, when I found out I was 17, and it was like, how are we going to, like I said, I lived with my parents and they're super traditional. And it's like, that wouldn't have been a question to them. Like, no, how would I have been able to get an abortion? There was just no way. Whereas I was a little bit older.
Like a year older? Uh-huh.
Yeah, a little bit. I meant a little, like a hair older. And I was a little bit, I think because of the situation, because of having a baby, I was a little bit less in my parents' grasp. Plus I was working, I had a little bit of money. So it was like, okay, I can at least pay for this myself.
Yeah.
So we got that done. Going through having a baby, I think was just like, okay, I don't want another one, like not now. It's too soon. So that's the reason why we had an abortion then.
Do you remember what the process was like?
Yeah. We were waiting in a waiting room, or like it was in Santa Monica, and it was just like, just like very medical waiting room. And I had no idea it was going to take place at this site. I thought we were just checking in, and then, they called me up and they were like, okay, it's time. And I was like nervous, like my heart was racing. I was like, oh my gosh, got in the gown, they put my clothes wherever in a locker. And, I just sat in a chair, legs already in stirrups. My heart was beating so fast because they hooked me up to a heart monitor. And they put the anesthesia, and they were just like, okay, you're going to feel like a wave going over your chest, and then you're going to go out, and they were like, we're going to count from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't remember getting to 1. And then just waking up and like in a bed, and they were like, okay, are you ready? Are you awake? Okay, here are your clothes. And then I exited out like some door. Mm-hmm. Chris was waiting for me right there. And we went and got California Vegan after that.
And then I got a phone call. The Smith motion's done.
Yeah. I wore black that day. But, special occasion. I wore black that day. I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely somebody's day to die. So,
Shut up. You're so
sorry.
terrible.
I know. That was so terrible. I'm so sorry. Here.
And then I'm like cracking up at it.
Oh my gosh. You girls.
You're horrible.
I know.
Like someone's day to
die. It's really terrible. Like my there was like no sanctity for life at that point in my life. So so that was that. And I wouldn't consider it wasn't like traumatizing or anything, it was just like,
was he supportive through everything?
Super. Yeah. Because I think we just both knew, we were both young. We both didn't have jobs. He had ambitions. I had ambitions. And this would have just, I made it impossible or made it super incredibly difficult. Yeah, that was that. We were just like, all right. And then after that, things kind of got rocky and we just kind of moved on from each other from there.
One of my favorite stories about you and him is, you guys, of course, were rocky and like on and off. And I was also on and off with the guy I was dating at the time. Mm-hmm. And you just like called me in the middle of the night and you're like, hey, where are you? And I was like reluctant to tell you because I was with the guy I was not supposed to be with.
Right.
And you're like, okay, I'm like right down the street. Like his car ran out of gas. And I was like, what are you doing with him? And you're like, what are you doing with him? And it's like, I'm on my way. The questions are done.
Oh,
never mind.
None
of that is the point right now.
Yeah. Neither here nor there. Come get me. I need help. Yeah. Totally.
SOS, man.
Yes.
We're both making some mistakes here right now.
Yeah. The fuck up is super real right now. That's all that needs to be said. Come get me. I need gas. But yeah, those were good times. Those were really good times because we were both super unstable. You know, like it was just fun being unstable with somebody. You're like, oh my gosh.
That was great. So then after that, it was, still free, single, dating, doing your thing. You had a good couple year run.
Right.
And then your sister was living in Vegas, and me and one of our other girlfriends were saying, like, hey, we should move to Vegas too. We're young, your daughter was getting a little bit older, and we're like, let's just all live together. Like, we could totally do this. And that was the plan until I got pregnant with baby number 2.
And that was something that I just really wasn't expecting because I had already been so irregular with my period that I just thought, oh, whatever, it's just weight. I'm on this new birth control, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's what kind of birth control were you on?
I remember taking pictures one time with you and Hans. I don't know. You can totally look that up if you want. But I was like totally admiring my tits were so big. Oh my gosh. I was like, what?
Yeah, you were just like, exactly. You were just showing them off. Like, look at how great my tits look on this new birth control.
Yeah. Okay. Birth control. Those were milk boobies. I was like super pregnant when I found out too. I was like 4 months pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
When I found out I was pregnant, I found out the gender. That's how far along I was. I was already like 20 weeks. So, that was a whole situation itself because even in my family dynamic, my parents and I were just starting to get along. Everything was going good. And then this happened, and that was going to put a damper on everything, And so my sister urged me to get like a mid-trimester abortion, and I was like, oh, I looked into it. I just looked into it because I was like, what is this about? What's going to happen? And it was just super involved, and I was like, girl, like, I don't know if I can do this. This is a lot. And so I just decided to go through with it.
So,
and
so I remember immediately when you found out, right? Like not knowing how. Well, first you called me, and I guess your pregnancy test said it was negative. So you called me like pregnant, and my heart dropped. I was like, all our plans are over. And then you start cracking up, and you're like, I'm just kidding. And I was like, how dare you do that to me? You called me at work. I'm working, and you said this to me. I'm on the sales floor, and then you're like, no, it was just a joke. And then a couple weeks later, you're like, no, wait, I actually am pregnant. Like, I just took another test. So you didn't know yet how far along you were. And you were...
I did not know.
And this is like, in between boyfriends. So you're just like, I don't think I want to be a single mom. Like, again, like to 2 kids.
Right.
So I'm not going to keep it. And I was just like, okay. And then you found out how far along you were, and that's when things changed. Can you tell us a little bit about what they explained to you the second trimester abortions are like?
So, when I read, first of all, they don't even do those in Los Angeles. At the time, they didn't do them in Los Angeles. So I would have had to go to Las Vegas where my sister lives, and they do that there. What it is I think it's considered a DNC. So like, it's like a 3-day ordeal. It's like a 3-day procedure. Go in, you like don a hospital gown, and then they give you some sort of, they give you a drug that pretty much aborts the fetus, and then you have to like give birth to it. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that. It's a 3-day procedure, and there's risks that come with it. And it was just like, oh, I don't know if I could do that. It was just already so far along. I just already found out the gender. And typically these procedures happen when you find out, like, there's no way this baby is going to live outside of your womb, Right. Whereas that was not the situation for me. It was really just like I made poor choices, and then this happened, it's good for some women who need it, but just wasn't, I just couldn't do that. That was just so involved. It was like, okay, we're going to put you to sleep, general anesthesia. You're going to be, out in an hour. Cool. But like that 3 day, I don't know, if I don't know how badly I wanted to be in a hospital for three days.
Yeah, especially because, I mean, you had already gone through one pregnancy and like what stage the baby is. It's like a fully formed miniature
little human.
Yeah. Like it's ready.
Halfway there.
It's not just like cells anymore like it was with Chris. It's like a totally different thing.
Right. It's like a total, it's like a thing with a gender, it's like, oh yeah, you're having, like you're 4 months pregnant. I don't know. I was like 18 weeks or 20 weeks or something. And they're like, and you're having a girl. Like, oh my gosh, no way. There's like, oh, okay. I'm already kind of invested in this. I'm way too far deep.
Yeah.
So
that was a crazy, crazy time.
That was a crazy part of my life. Yes, definitely a crazy, crazy part of my life.
And you were just like, I'm going to be alone with these 2 kids.
Yeah. I was like, I vowed to be a cat lady. I'm like, no, listen, I'm going to like have these kids. I'm going to get a bunch of cats. This is it. This is my life now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got married.
Yes. So, the dad of my baby, my second child. So he was very casual fling, and I had told him like, hey, this is what's happening. I'm not going to terminate, whatever. And being the good guy that he is, he was like, okay, well, like, why don't we try to at least be together, like try to co-parent together. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And then, whatever, the rest is history. We fell in love. And then, when in 2012 or 13, in 2013, we got married.
And then in 2015, I was like, guess what, Brie? I'm having a baby. And you're like, I'm having a baby too then. And then you got pregnant right after.
Exactly. Oh, I'm like, well, shoot. If she's doing it, I'm going to do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so late 2015, I found out I was pregnant. We moved to Sacramento. Yeah, we moved to Sacramento. And then we planned on it. Like I told him, I think it's time that we have another baby. I'm just like feeling it. I just really want to try for a boy. And so we came here to Sacramento. Boom, bam. We got pregnant.
And then do you want to talk about your guys' situation with Amelie?
Yeah. Okay. So I found out I had a boy. Everything was wonderful. Oh my gosh, we had 3 kids, and it's similar to his upbringing. So he is also the only boy with 2 older sisters, right? They're much older, and that's kind of what the situation was with Archer. So his older sister, his eldest sister's like 10 years older than him, and his other sister's like 4 years older than him or something like that. And so everything was perfect. Oh my gosh, I had my boy. It was just wonderful. And then he was 10 months old. He wasn't even 1 year old yet. And, I just had this like fleeting suspicion. I'm like, I haven't had my period. And at that time,
the fertilest girl in the world.
Wow, Brie.
I know. Okay, and I'm like deep. I'm like knees deep in breastfeeding, and I'm like, okay, my hormones are gonna, and it's not like we weren't. I mean, obviously we were just doing the pull-out method. There was like zero method, right? And but typically, like from what we have been doing, because we did that between Archer and Ayana, right? So it was really just family planning. Okay, this time of the month I'm super fertile. Let's be careful,
And you
or
just
abstain.
That whole time and you weren't on birth control at all?
Right. So the whole time after I had Archer, I was not on birth control, and the whole time between Ayana and Archer, I was not on birth control. Mostly because I don't know, I just didn't react well to it. It was just something that it's like, I'm just going to try this instead. So and it worked.
Wait, let me ask you a quick question about birth control.
Yeah.
So I know you said right before you found out you were pregnant with Ayana, you had just started a new birth control, but they didn't give you a pregnancy test before they gave you the birth control?
They did not. I had been taking it for a while at that point. I've been like, it was new to me because I forgot what the birth control I was taking prior to Loestrin. I was taking Loestrin before I had Ayana.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already been on it for like 6 months before I got pregnant with her.
So then you were you were switching, but you still had Wait, I don't get
Correct.
it. Okay.
Yeah. So I had switched from that birth control. I forgot what that birth control was called, but I switched to low estrogen because that other birth control made me incredibly lethargic to where it was like starting to get in the way of working.
Uh-huh. How did you just switch, like, without going to the doctor to get, like...
No, I did. I went to the doctor and I was like, hey, I really don't like this birth control. This birth control is like, I have really negative side effects. Okay. And they were like, okay, well, why don't you try this one? I was like, cool, yeah, I'll try that one. And that one worked out really, really well.
Okay. Did it? Mm-hmm. Did it work out really, really well because you were pregnant?
It was. From what I thought. They were like, oh, that's just the hormones. And, you know, like, here is this lower hormone. When in reality, I needed all the hormones. So, like, you know, yeah, like scaling the hormones back kind of hit me in the ass because it's like, you know, I'm like, no, girl, you need all the hormones. You're super fertile. So, so that was that. And so between Ayana and Archer, I used none. Like, I tried a few things, but for years we were like, okay, this is it. I don't want to, you know, we'll just try being careful. And then we moved here to Sacramento, and then we actually tried to have a baby. Was successful within the first month. And then, so he's 10 months, and then we were doing the same thing, and it worked for 10 months. We were fine. But I think it was like the New Year's thing because Archer was with my mom in Los Angeles, and I had come back to Sacramento just myself, and then I think we just went a little bit crazy. We went a little bit nuts.
You're like, no kids. My eldest is with her dad. My other two kids are with my mom.
Exactly. So we went a little banana nutcakes, and then boom, right? Like, come January, or you know, February, maybe I think late January, I was like, okay, this is weird. I'm late. I don't know if it's because I'm stressed, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I bought a pregnancy test. I don't even know. I forgot, like Dollar Tree or something. Because I was like, yeah, just in case. It's good to have them, you know, blah, blah, blah. So I bought a pregnancy test, and then it came out positive. And oh my gosh, girl, we were like, like, oh my God, what do we do? What did you do? We were like, Yeah. I was just like, what did you do? Why, how did this happen? And he was like, I don't know. Like, we knew it was like not having any of the kids. And we were just like, oh my God, dude, how could we be so freaking irresponsible? And I was like happy, scared. And he was just like scared.
Yeah.
because we had already been like super struggling, just moving out here, me living on my own for the first time in my entire life. And just not knowing what it was like to be like super, super broke. And then not to mention, I already told him, I was like, okay, it's my turn to stay home. Like, I'm going to stay home, you work. And he was like, okay, cool. You know, but he was just having just one job. He was like, how are we going to do this? I get it. You want to have another baby. Because I did. This was my goal, was to have one more baby. This is how it worked out. I was like, I want to have one more baby. I want them to be 18 months apart. Right.
Yeah.
And then what? I get pregnant. He's 10 months. It'd be 19 months apart, right? And I was like, what? How? Like, this baby wants to be born, dude. Like, come on, we have to do this. And he was like, no, you know how I feel about this. This is going to be so difficult. You're putting a lot of pressure on me. I just don't know how we're going to do this. 4 kids is a lot. Yeah, we went back and forth with it for a really long time. I just found out I was probably 4 weeks pregnant or something. Or like, no, like at like 9 or something. I forgot. But it was still early, and I had a few weeks to decide. It was like a whole thing. I mean, crying every day, not knowing what to do, feeling scared that he was going to feel some sort of contempt because if I go through with it, him being scared that I was going to resent him for the rest of my life. Because it was like a big deal, because I was like, okay, I'm not like some like 20-year-old girl who, okay, I messed up with my boyfriend's kid, I'm going to get an abortion. It was like, no, I'm like 28. I'm married to you. We've been married for a while now. This is something that I want. So it was just really back and forth. We had no idea what we were going to do. And it got to the point where he made an appointment to get fixed, right? So we already, like the day we found out I was pregnant, he went and he made an appointment to get fixed. And then he made an appointment for me to go to Planned Parenthood. And so we were going to Planned Parenthood. So he set an appointment, and I was like, okay, let's go in. So I go in, And they were like, what are you here for? Oh, do you want to do like an at-home abortion? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Not knowing, I don't know. I mean, I didn't realize that like they're like super efficient, because they were like, oh yeah, okay, here. And I'm like, oh, whoa, we're going to do this right now? And she was like, yeah, you just take a pill here and then you take a pill at home, and then that's it, you know? And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I had no idea Joel and Archer were waiting in the waiting room, you know? And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, I'm sweating, my heart's racing, my voice is cracking. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. She was like, okay, well, you are at like the last week before you have to go in and get a procedure. And I was like, okay. And she's like, so if you do change your mind this week, come in right away, and you could take the pill and have it at home, or you have to make an appointment. I was like, okay, that's fine. And so I go out. Joel's just looking at me, and I was like, I can't do it. Like, I can't do it. I know that you don't want to have this baby right now, but this is what I want to do. You know, I know you're hesitant. It's not that he didn't want to, like, obviously he did, but it was like our funds just wouldn't allow it. And I was like, it'll work out. It just always does. It always works out that way. And it ended up working out. And October, 9 months later, we had our baby girl, another baby girl. It was a lot of back and forth for a really long time. And it was a lot of pressure on the both of us. It was a lot of pressure on Joel. As a provider, he's like, how am I supposed to make sure that everybody's fed? And I felt for him. I felt for him. But it was just like, you know, I just really feel like this was meant to be. This is what I wanted. I wanted them to be this close together. I don't know why, but this is what I wanted. And all of a sudden it happens out of like the blue, out of nowhere. It's like, okay, let's do this. And so we did. And that was that.
Do you feel like when you decided I'm not going to do it, that he supported you right away? Or was he still like, come on, Brie, we can't do it? Did it take a while for him to come around?
No, I think he really supported me right away, just because we were already there, and I was like already like, okay, let's do this. For a lot of things, if he's very passionate about something and he, you know, he really fights for it, I usually relent, and I'm like, okay, this really means a lot to him. So for me to not do that, for me to like not give in to him, and to tell him, like, if you don't want to do this, I completely understand. I'm going to find a way to do this myself. Even if that means I have to move back to LA, I have to uproot my children and move back to LA, I'll do that, but this is what I want to do. He was like, okay, this must mean a lot to her, so I'm going to support her. Because he was just like, all right, I guess we're just having 4 kids then. Okay. I guess we are. That day, I was like, what are we going to name her? What are we going to name him? And he was like, okay, let's think about names. We have to do an A. He was like being supportive. I mean, obviously he was like still a little bit hesitant and reluctant, but he didn't really show it to me. I think because I was just so like adamant about like, no, we're going to have this baby. But after a while, he got really excited. He was like excited because everybody's like, oh my gosh, we're going to have 4 kids. You're freaking crazy. You're like a jungle guy. And I was like, I know. He's like, you guys have a tribe. What are you trying to do? Start a basketball team, blah, blah, blah. I think he just liked that. He was like, yeah, I guess that's true. Like, we do have a lot of kids. But, you know, he just loves it. He loves it now. He's definitely come around to the idea.
I remember you were so nervous to tell your mom you were pregnant with your 4th. You're like, what are they going to say?
Oh my gosh.
What did she say?
I didn't even tell her. I made Alessa tell her. I was so freaking scared. Oh my God. I think they came. When did they come? I think they came. It was right before he turned 1. They came in to visit, and I was like just so nervous, literally sweating. And I was like, okay, Alessa, this is what we're going to do. Like, you're going to tell mama that I'm pregnant and whatever. I don't want to do it. And she was like, why are you making me do it? I'm like, I don't want to do it. Like, I'm scared, to be honest. I'm scared. And she was like, fine. And so she told my mom, and my mom took a minute to like take it in, because like I said, she's very traditional. So she's like, she can't be like, oh God, no, you know? So she's like, let me try to don my happy face, you know? Like, let me, hold on. Okay. So it was right before dinner, and then we sat down, and I And I'm like looking at her, like trying to gauge her reaction. Like, oh gosh, I don't know what to expect. Cause she's like, you can't read her face. So we're like sitting down and she was like, so babe, she's talking to my dad. She's like, so babe, I just found out that we have really good news and we're going to have another grandbaby. Bree's pregnant. And my dad's like, oh my gosh, you are? Yes. Like, my dad's like so excited. You know, he's always wanted to have a lot of grandkids. And he, out of all his siblings, has the most grandkids, right? So he's like really excited about that.
And they're all from you because your sister only has one kid.
Right, exactly. And so, and like all of my cousins they're close to my age. And so they're like, well, Bree already has 4. And so they're waiting, you know, and so he's super excited. My mom, she is excited, but she's also worried. Like, how are we going to do this? How are you supposed to do this? You guys are already struggling. Yeah, no, they were really excited. My mom was like excited, but she was like, oh my gosh, like, you guys, that's enough. Like, what do we do? I don't know what you're supposed to do, but just stop having babies. They were excited.
That's good.
Yeah.
So would you say you have any regrets today?
There are days where I'm glad I have 4 kids, and there are definitely days where I'm like, damn, what did I do? Like, this is a lot to handle. But no, I don't think I regret my decision. I think it was a good decision because she's just like a good addition to the team. You know, she's got her own personality and it just balances out because like Archer, he needed to be humbled a little bit. I mean, for a while he was the only boy. He's the baby. Yeah. You know, he gets everything that he wants, and she just kind of balances him out.
What about with the abortion that you did go through with? Do you have any regrets about that one? Like, what if, or do you feel like no, that's what needed to be done?
Do you ever question things?
Never, no.
That's good.
No, I never question it just because it just needed to happen. It just really needed to happen. I think that I knew that if I did go through with it, I would regret it. And there's just like, that's the last thing I want to do is regret having a kid, you know?
Yeah.
I definitely needed to do that.
Good. Because I know like some people, they have an abortion and afterwards are just like, what
they
have
live
I
with
done?
the guilt of it.
Uh-huh.
Totally. Yeah, I've definitely heard that. I don't know. Yeah, I definitely didn't have any reservations towards it. I was really happy after I had it. I thought I'd be sad, or I thought I feel guilty, but I definitely did not. I was really, really happy that happened, just because I just got to exercise my right to have control of my body, and which I didn't the first time around. I would have totally regretted having that baby for sure.
Plus, I mean, you just had Alessa too. Like, she was so small.
She was so little still, and I was really content having one baby. And that's kind of probably why I like went on like what is the word? I was like very fervent about using birth control because I was like, oh my God, I don't want this to happen again. It was like so scary.
Yeah. But even then, like with Alessa, you had so much help. And if you had 2 kids, are you still going to have that same help? Or is your mom going to be like, no, you're on your own now?
Yeah, I think that would have been the last straw for her because she's like, you just got a divorce. How could you? Because she was already like, how could you have a boyfriend? You just got a divorce. How could you? And like, not to mention like our divorce was like not the best. He was very in love and I was very not in love, and it was sad. People got hurt. So
people got hurt. You're out there breaking hearts.
People got hurt. Lives got messed up for sure. Yeah, no, she would have been like, you're just kind of being a hoe, girl. What are you doing? Like, how do you have 2 baby daddies by the time you're 19, girl? What's going on? I definitely think that played a lot of part in it too, because like she was already at wit's end, she's like, how do I have a kid that like had a baby at 18, divorced by 19, has another baby at 19, like, no, there's just no way. And I was the same way. I'm like, no, what am I doing? Like, there's no way I could do this, working like minimum wage retail jobs. I'm working at a bowling alley.
You're feeling a little reckless, huh?
Right, yeah. I was like, no, I cannot do this. So yeah. No, definitely that worked out really, really well.
Well, it sounds like you made the responsible choices that needed to be made at the moment. And
right. Yeah, I agree. I do.
Yeah, and you were faced with it in so many different situations.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There were definitely choices that I had to make in life. that were super difficult for anybody at any age to make. Definitely things that I live with, and there are things that I deal with. But for the most part, I think that having 4 kids at the end was like, it was a good idea. It was a good idea. It's definitely trying. But yeah, it was at the end of the day, it was a pretty good idea.
So do you have any words of advice for any woman that could possibly be in your shoes that you were when you were first dealt this challenge of your life? What would you say to them?
Obviously, you have to weigh out your options. If you are not in a financial situation where you can support one life, your life, 2 lives, 3 lives, you have to really, really think about that choice, about that option. Because even as having 4 kids, I had to weigh out that option. Like, how am I going to support 3 kids already? Because I owe these kids already. I'm pregnant, but like, I owe these kids. I've already built a relationship with these kids. And same with the first one. I owe Alessa to give her a good life right now. I owe it to her to give her a good life. She just got her life started, and here I am. Am I going to turn her life upside down? Or, even if I didn't have Alessa, am I going to not ruin my life, but am I going to stifle opportunities? Am I going to, yes, you are. The answer is yes, you are. And it's going to be difficult. It's a difficult choice to make. It's not easy. If there's anything that I could tell girls or women who are facing this, it is not an easy choice. It is not an easy option. You're gonna be able to live with it. You'll be able to live with it, especially because you just see how your life improves. When I got my first abortion, I just thought, okay, go to school. I could get jobs. I could just kind of rest assured that I could support Alessa the way I need to support her, the way she needs to be loved right now. Just weigh out your options. Finances, really, really think about finances. A lot of people they always think about, they're very emotionally led. Really, you gotta think about it. Like, can I support this kid financially? Because they're a burden. I mean, to be perfectly honest, they are a freaking burden, but at least they're cute.
At least they're cute and smart and funny.
Yeah. And also, are you done living? I wasn't really done living my life how I wanted to live. I wanted to be reckless, I wanted to be, and I took that into consideration. Like, am I done? Am I done being reckless? No, I'm not done being reckless.
Yeah, so, you still had a few more good years than you. There were just too many boys, it was just too many. So I'm like, no, I can't. I'm gonna go ahead and go through with this one. But that's really it. Really, it's just like, are you financially, emotionally responsible for a life? If you do think so, if you think it can work out, or do you have somebody to support you? Then yeah, totally go for it. But if those 3 boxes aren't checked, there's just no balance. And I would say go through with it. Exercise your right to control your situation, to control your body, because not everybody has that. That was pretty detailed, and you gave us a lot.
We can't wait to have you on about some other topics we have in mind for you. So,
oh my gosh, I am really, really excited. I am really excited. If there's I have, pretty good foresight on a lot of different things. Definitely, I have a lot to learn as well, but I'm excited to be able to share with you and the mommy community.
Yes.
With, whatever
Thank you
situation
so much
you have.
for coming on.
So, the biggest thing that I always talk to you about wanting to podcast about how you have such a successful co-parenting relationship with your ex-husband and his new wife.
Yes.
Oh yes, I love talking. I could talk about that endlessly. So
yes, we need a whole episode about just that, because I think a lot of families need to learn how to be blended families.
Mm-hmm. Especially nowadays.
Yes.
Like, a divorce rate, separation rate, co-parenting rate is through the roof.
It's inevitable. You gotta get along, people. So stay tuned, guys. You're gonna hear Brianna again,
because she is ahead of the game.
Thank you so much, Bri, for sharing everything.
Absolutely, girls. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you.
Yes.
And we'll talk to you soon.
I'll call you soon. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Okay,
bye. Cheers. Bye, Vanessa.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
All right, guys. So we have another guest for you, which we're really excited to tell this story to you guys.
Yes, we're really glad to let you guys hear it.
Yeah. Not excited. Excited is not the right word, but this is another case where
a decision of abortion had to be made, and the sentiment of this one is just, it's, you guys got to hear it. So
yeah, so welcome one of our Moody mommies, where she's going to remain anonymous for this one because this is, I mean, it's a tough one.
it is.
So what can we call you?
I was going to say, you can just call me TT.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
TT. So let's start from the beginning.
Okay, so going back to like my childhood, I was raised in a Christian family, and my parents never really pushed like saying abortion's bad, abortion's good, abortion's this. They never really put any of their what they felt should be on me or any of the kids in the family. But growing up in church, you hear it that, you know, you shouldn't do this, you know, God gave you this child. You shouldn't have any rights in making that decision. You should I mean, I hear it even to this day, you know, like, oh, you know, God gave you that child. God should take that child away. And so growing up, not really knowing anything about it, I used to just think that abortion was just something that women did just because they didn't want their kids.
Mm-hmm.
That was just my perspective as a really young child until I would say about 13. I started to.
That's really young to even like. I don't even think I knew anything about abortions at that age.
Oh, I think because, you know, the church that we went to, the pastor would talk about stuff like that.
Okay.
And me being a curious child, I would question my mom on tons of things. Well, what's that? And how come? And my mom was like, oh my God, here she goes again. Like, she's not going to stop until she gets every answer that she wants.
Yeah, we have those daughters too.
I had a friend that had wound up getting pregnant, and it was actually through like a rape type issue. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, how old was she?
I'm sorry?
How old was she?
She was 12.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she fell pregnant, and she came to me and she told me first, and I helped her through that, and we went to her family, and they, you know, she decided, and her family, they decided that they wanted to go ahead with the abortion because of the situation. That's where I think my eyes were opened up to the differences of situations and circumstances of abortion. And, you know, I didn't cast any judgment, knowing that I was raised in a Christian home. And even though I heard pastors saying this is wrong, you know, regardless or whatever. And it just opened my mind to like other things. Now, keeping in mind, I never thought in a million years that I would be placed in a situation thinking, I thought, would I do something like that? I don't know, you know, but I never said a yes or a no. I just thought I was untouchable and nothing would ever happen, that I would have to make a decision like that. Until we found out which was at the time would have been our second son.
The first time you were pregnant, did you have a miscarriage, or did you
My very first pregnancy was a tubal pregnancy, and I guess I went a lot further than most women do with that, but then at the same time they discovered I had a cancerous tumor that was in front of the baby in my tube, and one day I bent over and I heard a huge loud pop and I couldn't come back up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I was 21 years old when that first happened, and I was unaware that I was actually pregnant.
Wow.
Until I wound up in the hospital, and they were like, oh yeah, you were pregnant, and everything had burst and you've just lost everything on one side. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, and it was a very tragic experience.
Did you have to go through a cancer treatment and everything after that?
Not for that, because for that one, they said that everything when it happened, because I had to go in for a surgery, I didn't just get like a DNC. They had to open me up to do like exploratory surgery because I had blood filling up into my system.
Wow.
And it was going on for a couple of days, I guess, and I was unaware of it. Yeah. They said that I was clear of those situations and I didn't have nothing to worry about. They put me on like a type of an estrogen. At 21 years old, they put me on hormone replacement therapy because they said it was going to cause a lot of like issues and stuff. I was just super careful from that point on to make sure that I wasn't going to wind up pregnant before I knew that I was like seriously ready. And I had some family relatives tell me, "Oh, you're so lucky God made that decision for you and not you." And I thought, I don't look at it as being lucky and that God made that decision for me. I just feel that it wasn't meant to be at that time in my life. Like it wasn't. All the cards were against it at that point, but it taught me a lot. It made me just be a lot more aware of myself, my body. I was very in tune with myself after that. Like I got checked out every 3 months and I made sure that I was really careful. I couldn't take certain birth controls, stuff like that. But through that, I actually met my now husband. So me and him were dating at that time. And the guy that the baby belonged to left me in the hospital and never came to visit me after I told him what was happening.
What?
And yeah.
Oh no.
He told me in the end that he was scared, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not scared at all. My life's not,
seriously
on the rim here." And so my husband now, we were just barely started dating, and I mean, he saw it all. He changed me. He saw me naked, and he was like, "I'm here for you. Don't worry." And we've been together ever since, and we're going on 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a good man. He's a good guy. We have a great relationship. So we knew that we were going to tackle anything that we could come along. And when I would say this was 2010, I started LVN school because it was something that I had worked for my whole life. I was like, nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go through it. I was in school for 2 months and found out that I had ovarian cancer.
Oh my gosh.
Precursor, because like I said, I would go every 3 months to get checked out. So luckily for me, as often as I went and I had RBCA tests done that could show if I got, if I was a high risk for the cancer because it ran in my family, they found the precursor of it. And they're like, "Look, we're just going to give you an oral that you have to take every single day, 5 times a day. You don't have to come in and do it through IV because it's precursor cancer." So I went through that while I was actually going through LVN, and I wasn't going to let it stop me. And, I became top of my class and
that's amazing.
Made it through. Yeah. I was just determined, I was like, nothing's going to stop me from, going where I wanted to go with this. So when I was all clear, I had all my checkups and everything, and the doctors had said, "Look, you have to wait a year to a year and a half now that you're done with, all of your treatment and stuff. But if you want to have kids, you really might want to look at starting this like soon." I, at this point now, am 31 years old. Because I thought, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get my education, I'm going to make good money, I'm going to get my house, I'm going to do all these things. And then I get hit with this. And it felt like, my world was going to fall apart. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to have kids, and how many do we want to have? And it's just, you get bombarded with all these things in your head. Like, well, is it going to work out like that? Is it going to happen? So, we waited the allotted time. And we started trying, and the doctors were like, it's going to take you a while. That's why we're telling you, you have about a year. It's probably going to take you a couple of years because of what you've been through. Sometimes I think doctors don't know what they're talking about because it happened within 2 months.
Oh, wow.
So we were like, oh, wow, it's meant to be. And, but at that one particular pregnancy fell in miscarriage at like 10 weeks, I think it was.
Was it to start bleeding at home, or how did you know that your body was starting to miscarry?
The cramps became pretty severe for me, and I feel like everything growing up, because from that time that I had really bad menstrual cycles from the time that I started. Like, I had to go on birth control back when I was 12 just to regulate mine, because I had it every day all the time.
Wow.
So I think just knowing myself and then going through what I went through with the ectopic, and I just kind of feel like I was really in tune with my body. And I felt like, and I'm that kind of person that, hey, if I think something's wrong, I'm not going to just sit back and just like, no, I'm okay, I'm fine. I'm going to go to the doctor, the hospital, whatever. And I went right in, and they were like, yeah, it's showing no heartbeat, and you're bleeding kind of profusely for something that if you're at this point. And it was true. We wound up miscarrying completely by the very next day. We were devastated, but we felt super strong in our relationship that it was going to happen for us. And so we just, we prayed about it, and we had the mindset of, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If it's not, it's not. And then we let my body have time to recover and stuff. And then we tried again, and a month later we were pregnant again. So, and that is our now 7-year-old son. So he came out a 9.5 pounds for my first baby.
Champ.
Yeah, he made up for everything that was lost before, is what we say.
Wow.
And during that pregnancy, did you have any issues at all, or was everything pretty smooth?
No, I had issues the entire 9 months. I had hyperemesis, which is where you just throw up the entire time, all day long, all night long. So, yeah. And then, I honestly did not know there was that side of pregnancy. I didn't. I thought, holy cow, if someone would have told me that this is what it was like, because the possibility that I was like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Dude,
because it was it's horrible. I mean, I was in bed pretty much the whole 9 months. I was hospitalized 3 different times just to have, fluids put back into my body. And it was really bad. And then I had a heart issue that happened right around my 6th month of pregnancy, where they had me hooked up to things. And I mean, every time something happened, the ER hospital would get it, and they'd call me and be like, hey, you got to come in and get this test done, because your heart rate just jumped for like an entire 2 minutes, and then it stopped for like this many seconds. And it was horrible. It was not a fun first time experience. Let's put it that way. I didn't have any joyous anything in that pregnancy whatsoever.
I'm surprised you got pregnant again. I would have been like,
tough.
I know, and
let's adopt.
And I had those nurses. Nurses asked me that. They're like, "So, do you think you'll do this again?" And I'm like, "Maybe." They're like, "Wow, okay.
Trooper."
With Justine, I had a pretty smooth pregnancy, but I was still like, I don't know.
I doubt I'm doing this again. My labor was horrible,
and here I am.
My labor was 38 hours and 4 hours of pushing with an episiotomy, and they still cut him out and pulled him out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
It was horrible. Every person I ever meet, I'm like, don't go where I went, because the people there I don't feel like they knew what they were doing, and it was horrible. I mean, my nurse, we called her Nurse Ratchet.
Oh my gosh.
She did things to me when people weren't around and was yelling at me, and I'm just I was horrified. Like, after having him, I'm like, I really don't think I want to do this again.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking that this is what it's like, and then other people were telling me, no, oh my God, no, it's not like that. You should have been done differently or taken care of. And so, man, again, a life experience that put a fire under my butt and said, well, hell, I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen again. I'm going to research. I'm going to find me a doctor that's good. I'm going to go see him. I was just like full force. This ain't happening again. If I'm having a kid, I'm going to have a great hospital. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, Yeah. And it was a good thing, because I found an amazing doctor. And that is when I got pregnant with our angel son, Easton. And he was super great, just the best bedside manners possibly ever. And so, I mean, I was really happy. And he was on top of it so well because I was repeating history with my first son, the same hyperemesis, heart issues, everything. But he was on top of it to where he had medication for me, and he had home health coming to my house, and they had, regimens to show me what to do and what to eat, what not to do, how to handle it. And it was a better pregnancy because of that. And but coming to when we found out that he had some anomalies was at I think it was our 12-week scan that we went to. And I had also done the first trimester blood screen. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that I guess the results had came in, but they were sent to the wrong doctor from the lab. And I was supposed to have been notified before going to this ultrasound. Uh-huh. And when we went to the ultrasound, me and my husband knew that the ultrasound tech, like the way that she was real chitty-chatty with us, talking to us, real happy, well, what do you think this one's going to be? And I'm like, well, he really wants a girl, but I have this really, gut feeling it's another boy. And she's like, okay, well, if I can tell, then we'll let you know. And she just got really quiet, and she just kept moving the wand all over my stomach, trying to look for things and stuff. And she's like, okay, I'll be right back. And I remember looking at my husband going, I don't know, something's not right.
That's scary.
I feel like she's, not telling us something and stuff. And she was gone out of the room for 25 minutes while we were in there. So I told my husband, I said, can you please find out what's going on? I mean, she just left the room, didn't say anything. So he goes out there, and she comes back in, and she's like, hey, do you guys remember getting a blood test done? And I told her, yeah. Why? And she's like, well, I just need to call your doctor's office to get the results for it. And then I said, okay. And so she's like, oh, just hold tight. I'll be right back. And we're in there for another 15 more minutes. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, oh my God, it's almost 40 minutes that we're in here. And I'm, laying on a table, and I have nothing on me from the bottom down. Yeah. So I'm like, can I put my clothes back on? Right. And she's like, yeah, go ahead. And then I'm going to have you go into the doctor's office. And I knew, my heart fell into my stomach. I knew something wasn't right. And so it was another 30 minutes from that point on. So we're looking at over an hour. And she comes in and she says, well, there was a problem with your blood test results. I guess it got sent to one of the attending doctors over at the hospital instead of to your doctor. And so that's why you didn't get the results. But see, I didn't know because they didn't tell me, oh, hey, you keep an ear out that you're going to get this phone call or whatever in this amount of time. They didn't tell me any of that.
You always think, okay, no news is good news.
Right.
Yes, right, exactly. Then the doctor that's there at the ultrasound place, and then the ultrasound tech, and they come in and they said, well, okay, so your ultrasound is showing that your son has a cystic hygroma, which is, it's kind of like a mass that grows from the back of their neck where the nuchal fold is, and the back of their neck up to the top of his head.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know.
Fold?
What?
What is that? A nuchal fold?
It's that space that's between their base of their brain to this part of their skin. They measure that on the ultrasounds. And what they're actually looking for, it's a precursor to detecting any anomalies that the baby could have. It could Down syndrome, T18, T13, anencephaly, which is where the part of the brain's missing. There's a ton of things. So they're like precursors that this blood test look for, and they put them together if their measurements come beyond a certain point. And so she showed us with the pictures that she had printed out, and she's like, look, from here to here, it's, such and such amount when it should be at this point. And the number she gave us, he was at like 23, and it was supposed to be under 11.
My
Yeah. So and this was at 12 weeks. So at 12 weeks, he was already at 23, and they said they just don't normally see this number at such a young gestation. So we were like, well, what does this mean? And they said, well, your blood test results, we've got to have you do these again because now they're considered inconclusive or something like that. And so I went and did it, and then a week goes by and they call me in and they said, we have an appointment for you to go to the genetic counseling. And I was like, what the heck's the genetic counseling? I mean, I know what genetics are and I know what counseling is, but why am I going there? They just kept saying, we're not obligated to give you that information. The doctor just wants you to go to this genetic counseling. And when we got there, I'm still not like worried in the sense that I'm thinking I'm about to get the news that I'm going to get. I'm just thinking this is something that I probably didn't get when I was pregnant with my son. Because like I said, it was a super bad experience, not the best doctors, you know, just not knowing that this could be something I'm supposed to have had before. So when we get there, they put us in the back of a room and she has like this book of stuff and these papers and everything's highlighted. And she starts saying, your son has a cystic hygroma, which is in concordance of your child having Down syndrome. And I'm like, okay. And then she says, but he's also showing signs of heart issues and a tumor that's growing, but this could disappear, but it's in his stomach. And I'm like, okay, what is the outcome? What is that supposed to mean? And then she starts throwing numbers at me. And I personally feel at that time, like the numbers that they say, oh, you're 1 in like 400 or you're 1 in 1700 on this and 1 in whatever. Well, they're telling me that the chances were a 1 in 4 of a lot of these things like going away the further I went into my pregnancy. So I'm thinking I had good results, not bad. Come to find out at the end, those numbers for that specific thing, the lower they are, the worse they are.
Oh.
So they didn't explain that to me though. Right. So I left their office that day with that information,
hopeful,
thinking, yes, that I'm like, oh, my numbers are good. It's 1 in 4, it's 1 in 400 or whatever. And that's not that bad. And that I was supposed to go and have an amniocentesis done to just, because all the other ones are called precursors. This one would give definitive answers because they're actually getting cells from the baby and then cells from the amniotic fluid in my stomach.
That's when they put the needle in and take out fluid? Or
yes.
Okay.
Yes. They can actually pull it from like the placenta. They can pull it through a bunch of things, like even the umbilical cord I've heard and other areas. And they only need a little bit in order for it to like confirm certain things that the baby can have. So I went and had it done. And then, because, you know, there's always a chance of like miscarriage and stuff for having those done. It's very, very, very small, but there's still a chance. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, you know, with my history, this has happened. And, you know, what if this and what if that? And my husband, he's always the person that grounds me and brings me down. He's like, yeah, but we need to find out if there's something wrong with him, if, you know, we need to be prepared for when he's here. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So we went and got it done and everything had turned out great. And they got the results back from that in like 3 days. So I guess it was like a rush type of thing in the lab. Because I was like 12 weeks, 3 days when I went to that first ultrasound. Then they did another one and it was a week for the results from there. Then when they scheduled me to see the counseling, it was 5 days later. So now I'm looking at over 2 weeks. I'm close to 15 weeks pregnant by this point. And then they do another ultrasound and then they were telling us with the results with that, everything lined up. Yes, he has Down syndrome. Yes, he has what they call HLHS, and it's basically where the heart has just 2 chambers instead of the 4 that we all have. Mm-hmm. That the tumor on his head or the growth on his head has now gotten even bigger. So when we were at the 12-week, he was at like 23 something. And now we were up to 29 something. And it was just getting higher and higher and higher. And the tumor on his stomach had tripled already.
No.
Yeah. Basically, they said, they gave us our options. They're like, you can continue with the pregnancy, but your odds of him living, because they said the worst thing that he had out of everything was not just so much the cystic hygroma on his head, it was his heart.
Right.
Because now I was going to have to go in for like weekly echoes, and that I would have to already get a surgeon set up, that he was already going to need surgery immediately to remove the tumors and to fix his heart and to see if there's any brain damage. And they started flooding me with information. And I, at that point, realized that it was super real. And I was like, oh my God. And my world fell apart.
Yeah. And then, so it's just between you and your husband, like you guys aren't really sharing this with anyone at the time.
My family knew.
Okay. And how were they with you? Do you feel like they were sensitive and supportive?
Oh yeah. My parents, like I said, they never pushed anything on me. Mm-hmm. And they said, we love you. We're here for you. Whatever decision you decide to make, we're going to be here for you.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my husband didn't have that support because his sister had experienced something very similar when she got pregnant at 17. And her son wound up having some kind of, where his intestines were on the outside when he was born. Mm-hmm. And she, I think, wanted to make that decision, and they wouldn't allow her to do that. So he's like, I don't want to tell my family.
Oh, okay. And his sister, did her baby survive?
He lived. He's alive, but he has complications.
Okay.
And he lived a really long time in the NICU. Multiple surgeries, multiple health issues, and then still had some to go on afterwards. I mean, we're grateful, that he's here and stuff, but it's like, that situation's not realistic for everyone. Yeah. You just don't know those things. And I think that's where like my issues come into play, because there have been a few people who have found out like the choices that I had made and ridiculed me for it, because I should have let be what be.
I don't think that's fair for them to put that on.
Yeah.
At all.
And I said, you know what? I always come back with that, walk in my shoes one day, mm-hmm. and we'll have this discussion. And if you choose to do that, then, more power to you. But when I got this news, we didn't just stop there. You go through stages like you do in grief. And I went into straight denial, like, this is not happening. This is not true. I'm going to go see another doctor. I'm going to go see a specialist. I mean, we went hours away to go find another specialist and go get another ultrasound. And every time we went back, they would tell us the situations, or they would add something else to it. And they would say, well, this has happened to him now. And, well, this is slowing down and looks like he's having complications with now your fluid. And it kept growing. And I went back to go see my doctor, and he was so kind, and he said, I'm going to sit here right now and tell you that if I were in your shoes and this was happening to me, I'd be making the same decision. Yeah. And he said, I pass no judgment on anybody in this life that wants to make that decision for, to sacrifice for their kid. He was awesome. He hugged me and he held me and he said, I'm here. He gave me his number and he said, if you need to talk, you call me. He didn't want me to feel bad. And so I think just from talking to him after seeing these other doctors and these specialists and stuff, it just gave me closure that the decision that we wanted to make was to end the suffering of our child.
They told you that he was feeling pain inside, or?
Well, when we went to see the very last specialist. He turned the monitor. It was a really big monitor, and it kind of goes over so the mom doesn't have to move or anything. And he said, "I want you to watch his heartbeat, and I want you to watch his mouth." Mm-hmm. And baby's heartbeats, they go anywhere between, the 135 all the way up to the 160s, depending on how far along you are, or, if you just had chocolate ice cream or whatever. I mean, they vary from those. Our son's was down into the mid 90s. Mm. And when we first found out, they said that he had a fatal diagnosis that would not probably be able to reach to the full term. And at that time when we found that out, I thought, then I probably will let time take its toll and let be natural or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then when I saw that ultrasound and I saw that his mouth was opening as if he was in pain for trying to gasp for air, almost like you're watching someone take their last breath, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that every time we went back, it was going lower and lower. And then to be told that the tumor that had taken over, he was probably going to be brain dead when he was born, if he made it that far. So in my mind, I was like, okay, so his heart's messed up, his brain's messed up, he has a tumor in his stomach, he has Down syndrome, like that's the least of the issues. But you never know the severity of any of those. Like what, I say now that even if I was told that it was literally just Down syndrome, I used to say no, I wouldn't. But you know what? I think I probably would, because I worked after I graduated. I worked in a facility with that stuff, and I saw it every day. And I saw these kids just get left there, and I thought, oh my God. Unless you've got all this money to be able to take care of your kid, who's going to take care of your kid better than you? And I couldn't bear to think that if I ever left this world, who's going to take care of my kid with all these issues?
Yeah, I feel like that's a question that like all moms have, like for everything, but especially in a child that's going to have special needs for the rest of their lives.
Exactly. And so we made the decision, and I said, nope, I cannot go home every day knowing that this is the case. I will live with the pain for the rest of my life, knowing that I gave him peace, because he's supposed to be able to be safe in my womb, and he's not.
Mm-hmm. Do they know if was this just like a genetic thing? Was this because you previously had cancer, or like why?
Yeah, I asked them all of those questions, and they said, nope, it's just a fluke. Ugh. And then, well, don't forget, you are 35, so you're considered a geriatric patient. So your eggs are old, and I'm sorry.
No, don't be.
It's not something you want to hear when you're going through that, and you think, well, yeah, it's my fault,
No, but but you know that it wasn't.
No, but at the time, that's like the guilt of all guilt, to think when they tell you, they're not directly saying, well, this is your fault, but they'll throw in there, well, you are.
Oh, like you waited too long, but you're like, you don't freaking know my life. Like,
you know everything I've been going through.
Yeah.
Right. And, I'm one of those firecracker people that point that trigger at me, and I'm going to easily turn it around and put it right back on you. And I told that girl that. I said, you don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. And for you to tell me something like that, it's not fair, especially as a professional in the field that you work in. I had both ends of that, and I knew both ends of it. And so we just grabbed our stuff and we left, and I went back to my doctor, and I told him, I said, okay, so this is what I want to do. And he said, look, you have these options on how you want to do it. And I said, I want my son. I want to spend time with him. You know, he was made and wanted in love.
Yeah.
So he said, unfortunately, with today's days, the insurance that you have, if you don't have the best of the best, you get sent to certain places to get these things done. And I got sent to a clinic that was not far from me, and they started the process. And first what they do is, you know, they stop the heart with a certain medication. And I went into this clinic dreading it with every fiber of my body, seeing other girls there, and I had to experience a girl who was sitting 2 chairs from me telling me while she talked to her boyfriend, saying, "Boo, we can't do this for a 5th time. They ain't gonna let us come back for number 6.
Oh my God.
And again, I'm not passing judgment, but to put me in a room and our situations not being the same, I got up and I told that nurse, "You need to get her the hell out of this room before I kill her. I don't need to hear this."
Yeah.
And it triggered me, and I started crying and I started screaming, and I couldn't calm down. I was like hyperventilating by this point. And they take you in a room, and it's the coldest, most uninviting area you've ever. It looked like, to me, it felt like something straight out of a horror movie. Thank God the doctor was sympathetic to me. They did have to give me something to basically sedate me, to calm me down. There's steps that they do. They put strips and they get you going with that kind of stuff, and they dilate you a little bit. And then for me, the choice that I chose and how far along I was, it turns into a 3-day process. And I honestly feel that as much as I prayed, that the Lord intervened for me, because I didn't have to go back to that disgusting place day 2 and day 3. I went into labor that night.
Oh, wow.
And it's apparently unheard of to happen like that. I was 22 and a half weeks.
Okay.
Before they take you into those rooms, they make sure, before they bring you back, they'll do an ultrasound to make sure where, like, the baby's heartbeat, if there is a heartbeat, like, to do unnecessary procedures and whatnot. And I was already upset, and so the tech that was doing the ultrasound, she was seriously the nicest person I had encountered being in that place. She asked me and she talked to me and she said, "You know, you're making the most selfless decision that you're ever going to make in your entire life, and you're doing it for your kid. I think you're a pretty damn amazing mom, if you ask me." And I thanked her, and she hugged me and she held me while I cried for like 15 minutes. And then she told me, she said, "Honey, I want to let you know that I've seen a lot of things in my years of being here, and I want to tell you, if this eases your mind at all, that your son, his heart is slowing down. And what you've told me sounds pretty right on, that this could be causing him a lot of pain. And I think you're making a great decision." And if it wasn't for her, I don't know if I could have walked through those doors. I mean, it was difficult. Like, I'm saying this so that people understand that I didn't just be like, "Oh, okay, you know what, that's fine. Let's just go do it. Walk in, get it done." Okay. It was a very hard thing. The struggle was real, man. I mean, to have to
painful process.
Yeah, I mean, the whole place, the people, those are images that are burned forever. After I walked out, they had to give me that medicine. I don't even remember what it was, but they wouldn't let my husband come back there. So I had to do it by myself. Wow. Which devastated me to all ends, because he was my source of support. And they wouldn't, no matter how bad I got back there, and they did wheelchair me to the door and then stopped and said, "You have to go from here on, because there's picketers outside."
Oh my god.
Wow.
And there's protesters and all this stuff, and there were twice as much there when we left than there was when we got there, because we got there so early. And I remember hearing him yelling and screaming, and my husband is literally carrying me in his arms to the car because I can't walk. And I get in the car and I just cry all the way home. And they gave me, medication or whatever to ease if there was any pain. And it was about 3:30 in the morning. I sat up straight out of bed with a cramp in my stomach that felt exactly like the labor pain I had when I went into labor with my son, my firstborn.
I don't want to derail the story, but I mean, I know that your first son obviously knew you were pregnant during this time too. Did you guys have to explain any of this that was going on to him?
Yes. He was only 3.5. Just under 3. I'm sorry. He was really young. He was just under 3 years old. And he knew that my tummy was big, and he knew that he had a baby brother in there, and he kissed my stomach 50 times a day. And he knew that mommy was sad and daddy was sad and that there was something going on. He's a very sensitive kid, and he's very loving. And so he used to just lay with me and tell me it was going to be okay, and that he prayed for me, and that he loved me. So and then, yeah, he's a very sweet kid. He's very, very sweet. And we told him, until he's old enough to understand, we told him, baby brother, he died and he was sick. He was very unhealthy, and that he went back home to heaven, and that someday again we'll see him again. And we go to his grave. He has a grave site, because there are laws now that you're past a certain amount of weeks, you have to have a burial for your kid. And I would have done it anyways, regardless. But we go every month and we spend time there, and the kids bring flowers and toys for him. And so, we think he had a bit of a setback because he knew something wasn't right, but he did pretty good.
Yeah. So back to you got up right out of bed because you felt the labor pains.
Yeah, I woke my husband up. I don't know where the intuitiveness came in. There wasn't really any, oh, what's going on? Oh, maybe my stomach just hurts. Oh, it's just part of what's happened. I mean, I just sat up, thought to myself for 10 seconds, and I'm like, something's not right. Something's wrong. And I woke my husband up and I said, I think I'm in labor. And then he was like, well, it says that you would feel. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I haven't felt like this at all. They told me I wouldn't feel this kind of pain until the day 3. Something's not right. And then I'm telling you, I think it was the Lord again, because he calls the number that they gave us. If there's any questions, if this happens, call us here. It was a busy signal forever. He could not get through. So he called the local hospital and he said, look, this is what's happened. This is what she did. They gave us this number. There's no one answering. What do I do? And they said, no, you got to bring her in. So I got to go to a very nice hospital, very, close to our home. They took me right in. It was a hospital that possibly could have, they didn't believe. It was a Catholic hospital, so they didn't really believe in what I was doing, but I was treated very well. Very, very well. And the route that I was going to have to go through, the place I was going to have him, and yes, I would have been able to see him, but this place probably would have taken him away from me almost immediately. Mm-hmm. I got to spend 2 whole days with my son after I delivered him. And it was the way that we wanted it. It was just me and my husband.
And he came out, obviously, stillborn, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the bad thing about the next step on that is that I was in full-on labor. They told me, we don't want you to be hurting, or if you want to have these, nice moments with your son, we suggest getting an epidural so that you're not in so much pain. And so I did. And I remember thinking, oh, my hip and my butt's falling asleep. I need to roll over. And my husband said, well, let me go get the nurse so we can both move you. And he went to go pull the sheet back, and then he said, I'll be right back. And he goes and gets the nurse, and she comes in, and I guess I had delivered him and didn't even know it. So he had been on the table.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because they weren't coming to check on me as often as they normally would because of the situation.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, my husband now has that memory burned in his mind of seeing the baby there. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that. Yeah. And
Jesus.
So then everyone starts rushing in, and the doctor's in, and they're, fixing me up or whatever. But that was it. We don't know the exact moment. They just gave us an estimated time and when he was born, because that's when they found him. And so, I mean, I'm bothered by that. And I'm also bothered that I understand that I was the priority after that, and that they were probably just doing their job, but they laid our son in the incubator, not turned on. They were supposed to have kept it on so that your baby can have blood circulating correctly. There's things you can do to not have their body demise faster.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just laying there, and my husband said he was very angry because they just left him there.
Yeah.
So that's something that, that's his story, that's his part. But we did get to spend time with them. We got to hold him. We got to take pictures. We got to pray for him. And unfortunately, none of the stuff we had fit him, because we didn't expect him to be that small.
Yeah,
he was only 8.5 ounces and 8.5 inches.
Oh my gosh. I know that picture that you sent us. He's so teeny tiny.
He's super tiny. And I have big babies. Like I said, my first son is 9.5 pounds. My youngest son was 11 pounds. So
oh my goodness.
I have big babies. So for him to be that small was a confirmation of all the things that were definitely going wrong with him, because they said even if he had just a few of the issues, that he still should have been bigger than that. And so, and we got to see the defect that was on the back of his head, and we could tell that his stomach was very distended, and we could kind of see through his chest, and we could see certain things. He also had like a digit missing on one of his hands. And so, I know it's not like, because I've been told, even from, which I think is shocking, I've been told from other women who've almost made the exact same decision that I've made, but their kids had a different anomaly diagnosis than mine, and they'll even try to say, well, that outcome still could have been better, you should have just left things alone. Mine, my kid's brain was missing, or my son's bones were broken in his body. That's different. And so that's hard to hear that coming from another person who made the same decision, but they're still justifying it,
Right. No, yeah, that's not fair at all. Come on, I'm dealing with this too. Like, how could you say?
Yeah. So I mean, that's our story. That's my son Easton. That's his story, and he will be 5 on August 19th.
Ooh, that's close to just.
He would have been 5 years old.
Wow.
I do want to say, because I've been told, oh, you wouldn't feel like that because if I had kids, or if I did this, or if it was hard. I've experienced every aspect. I've had a ectopic pregnancy. I've had 4 miscarriages. I've had a chemical pregnancy, and I've given birth to 2 beautiful living children. So I've been on all sides of that, where they say, well, how can you, like, you don't know what it's like to struggle to get pregnant. Well, yeah, I do, because it did happen, and it may have gotten pregnant easily for the first 2 times, but after that, no, it was very difficult, and me and my husband, even after our youngest was born, we decided we wanted another one. We had always said we wanted to have 3 kids. We do. We wanted to have another one. And we tried for 2 years and nothing happened. So we thought,
after Easton.
That's it. God.
After Easton, or after your youngest?
After my youngest. So after Easton, it took us about 8 months to conceive. But after we tried for 2 years and 2 months, And we were like, nope, you know what? Okay, we made peace with it. We're like, no, we got the 2. It's not meant to be, because I just turned 40. And I thought, yeah, with everything that I've been through, with all the issues, I think it's just my time and no more. And then 2 months ago, I wound up pregnant. Date night, one time.
And, my gosh.
What?
So you're pregnant right now?
No, we lost it.
Oh,
no.
On May 16th, I had a miscarriage again at 8 weeks.
No. So,
yep, and it was rough. I have to say, out of all of my miscarriages, this one was painful, like physically and mentally. Like, I don't even understand why it was just so different. Maybe because I am older, I don't know. But yeah. So like I said, we thought it was like, oh, it's meant to be again, because I was on birth control and it was one time and it still happened.
Oh my gosh.
So we just thought, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. And then
what's a chemical pregnancy?
It's before the 5 weeks point, and they call it a chemical because the reading comes up on the tests, but before you can even get to the higher positivity or going to the doctors to get the blood test done, it's already went back. Like, so you're pregnant, but it never reaches its full potential. If that makes any sense.
I think so.
So I took a test because I'm like, watching the clock, peeing on a stick like a crazy person all the time, watching what's happening, what's this, what's that.
This is after, or when is
yes.
this? Okay.
Yep. So I had the chemical, when we decided, okay, we're done, it's not happening or whatever, because I was only like, I was just barely past my period, and I took the test and it was positive. And then I went to go take another test a few days later, and it wasn't even coming up positive. So that's how fast it goes away.
Yeah.
So before you ever even get to see anything. And then this one that I miscarried, I even got a digital, it says I was pregnant, went and had my blood test, was checking my HCG levels, and they were going up, 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 up. And then I had to get a new doctor because the wonderful doctor I told you had before, had left and moved to a different area and wasn't accepting my insurance anymore. So I had to find a new one, and he has my history. And, I'm one of those women that has to be on the progesterone to keep my pregnancies.
Oh, okay.
And he refused to give it to me.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I know this is going to sound terrible, but, when you just have like those gut feelings, you don't have no concrete evidence of something, but you just know, you feel it. I feel, because he did know the actions of what we took for our son, that he really did not want to be my doctor. And by law, if he would have said or did something like that, he could have gotten in trouble. So I feel like he kind of dismissed me in most of my concerns and issues that I had, because he never once made an effort for me to get in to see him, get an ultrasound, nothing. The only thing he did was just the blood work. That was it.
Oh.
So, I mean, I would call that office and be like, I'm cramping, I'm hurting so bad. I was scared that I was having another ectopic.
Mm-hmm.
That was my thing. And I wanted to come in just to see where placement was. And he kept saying, well, we're not going to be able to see anything like a heartbeat. And I'm like, I'm not asking for that. I want to make sure that baby is where it's supposed to be. I don't want to, having something explode on me again.
Yeah.
He just, I didn't get the progesterone. So, and sure enough, and I went in and did that stuff by myself because I didn't want my kids to be all disrupted. And my oldest had like baseball finals coming up. And so I told my husband, I'm going to take myself to the hospital. You go take the boys and you just pretend like everything's okay. And, I had this gut feeling that something was going to happen. And, I was there for 6 hours. They said, we don't really have any bad news for you. I went home that night. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was bleeding profusely and I knew it. And so I guess I lost so much blood that I passed out. Husband took me to the hospital. They got me right in, and sure enough, they confirmed that I was miscarrying. So it was kind of devastating because we thought that was it. But, it's the one question everyone kept asking, are you guys going to try again? And I'm like, well, we weren't, but I think we are now because, by God, I feel like I'm going to make it happen.
Okay. Yeah. That TT, I don't even. We've been like quiet this whole podcast.
I know,
because
just so much to take in.
We're like looking at each other, like holding back our tears.
Yes.
I know. I'm sorry.
You've been through a lot.
Really
Do not be sorry.
I just I felt this was the next move in my life because, like I said, a lot of people don't know, and I feel like I guarantee there's someone out there who is walking in the same shoes that I did. Yeah. And I've covered all grounds on that to where I have been through it all, and I'm still here. Where my depression does come in is that I had to make that decision. Yeah. But I did it for him.
Mm-hmm. You did. I really hope that someday you find peace in knowing that you did the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, grief is a really crappy thing,
Yes.
especially when it comes to having to bury your child.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
It's not something I feel, we lose people, we lose loved ones, but when it comes to your kids, it's really hard. It's only because I love him. But I know he's in a way better place. And I know that someday I'm going to see him again. And I have all faith in that. Teaches me a lot. I ground myself quite often. We have the craziest days with our kids. And my God, sometimes I should have bald spots on my head from wanting to pull my hair out because they're just being so crazy and I can't handle it, but I stop and I think about what I have and where I'm at and how I know there are others that don't. And therefore, I woo-saw myself back to normal.
That's all you can do.
But I did wanted to thank you guys for just being the most amazing people because I feel you guys are so real and you're doing great things for people by being so real.
I read your messages that you sent to us, and I literally was just sitting there crying, and I was just so thankful that, you reached out to us and you told us how valuable our voices were to you, and it just reminded me and Jessica that this is why we do this. We're hopeful that people hear these stories and they know that everybody has a struggle, and you think of abortion and you would never think that someone would have to make that choice because of health issues with their child. So I think your story is so...
It's really valuable.
Monumental.
Very valuable to hear and for people to understand that we need to have these rights for all reasons.
Yes. Yeah, I struggle with that. I really struggle with listening to the news lately.
Yeah,
I really do.
I'm just so thankful that you're using your voice and spreading the awareness that this isn't just something people do because they made a bad choice or, it's life, and sometimes the challenges are bigger than you think.
Yeah. I mean, I listened to all the other women's stories and I could feel it. I could relate to every single one of those. And it just, I don't feel that someone else should have that right to tell us. Knowing and hearing my story and hearing the pain and the sadness because of the situation and every other woman's situation, who has that right to take that from us? I don't feel that that's fair.
Yeah.
And I fear for our children to grow up in this world and have that taken away.
Exactly.
Yeah. And everybody was so different, and I felt like with two of the girls and the other ones, they felt a lot of guilt because they're like, am I just aborting a healthy child? Like, they weren't having any issues.
Yeah, but I feel that I don't pass judgment on anybody for whatever their reasonings of why they made the decision that they did, because again, you're not in their shoes. You're you're not living their life. there's just so much bad crap in the world right now that it's like, why do that? Why bring that into it when you know yourself, if you're a teen mom and that that's going to be the outcome of your life, or if you have a amount of kids and this is your situation. I mean, there's no wrong or right for that. I don't feel that, it should be like that.
I agree 100%. And I really hope that you sharing this story helps with the process of just finding peace in all of this. Yeah,
me too. I seen a therapist, and I'll be honest. I seen a therapist at the beginning. I do when July starts coming around. I do start seeing myself kind of go back to that dark place because his birth month is in August, and all the bad news started coming in June and July, and it's almost like one of those internal clocks. It kind of hits me, and I do get sad, and I don't clean the house, and I don't do the laundry, and I don't go socialize because I feel like that's my time to think about my son and all that happened, whether it be good or bad or whatever it was. And I take that time, but I'm not too big of a person to admit that right after this happened. I mean, I went on some medication because you go into a dark place and you want to blame yourself for every single thing. Like I said, you tend to think it's your fault, even though it's not. And there's nothing that you could do about, the outcome and like the genetics and stuff like that. So,
and you still had your other son to take care of.
Yeah. And that's why I said, I go, you know what? I'm not fighting this fight to just let that kind of stuff go. I don't want, that was the other thing. I'm glad that you mentioned that we had brought up, me and my husband. I said, you know what? Do you realize what kind of life we would have and what would be taken away from our oldest at the time if we had a son that had all these conditions? Can you imagine the lifestyle that it would be? It would be very unsettling. It would be very, there would be no order. I could just imagine him getting into a lot of trouble because mommy and daddy are at the hospital, taking care of little brother, or he's got another surgery, or we got to drive to such and such. And I know that there are other people that do that, but that's what I was thinking also in the same as like, I'm not going to do this. He didn't ask for this. It's not his fault. It's no one's fault, but we had more than just that to think of.
Right.
Yeah, that feel like that would be one of the biggest
challenges.
Yeah. And I don't have a huge family. Like I literally just have my mom and my dad, and my mom's not the healthiest. So it's like thinking, well, what if that was the situation? Who would I have to take care of my kid that's here?
Yeah, I feel like you were pretty clear and straightforward with everything. And you gave us a lot of details. So I don't really know if I have any questions.
It's a lot of feelings right now.
Yeah, I know. We're just like, I know we read your story already in the DM, but like even still, like hearing it, having to process it.
I don't think I would have been able, like, I know I gave you the gist of the stuff, but I'm one of those typers, like, man, I get going. I don't even stop to see if it's been autocorrected.
Oh, me either.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm going with the feelings, and I feel, that there is no better way than hearing somebody or talking to someone so you can hear their feelings, because it's hard to get that across.
Yeah. And I'm glad you came on and told it yourself so it can help you in whatever way, and shape, or form.
Mm-hmm. And your voice is super powerful and
it needs to be heard.
Yeah, there's no way us reading it would have done it any justification at all.
Not at all. So
thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, we really appreciate you listening and you sharing. It means the world.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. Well, we wish you the best with every adventure that comes your way in life.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I wish you guys the best. And just remember, you're doing amazing things.
Thank you so much.
You are too.
You are.
And you go take care of your little ones.
Our crazy kids.
I can go set them free. Out of the den.
Release the beast.
Go let them out. We're going to go let ours out too.
I'm gonna go let them know that since they were good, we're gonna go to Disneyland. So,
awesome! Sounds like a fair deal.
Yeah, they haven't been in a while.
Don't
we gotta
even
go before we can't go again.
Don't even bring up Disneyland to Vanessa. She has hardcore regrets.
I do. It's a touchy subject.
I'm upset because we have passes and I only get to go today, and then I only get to go to California Disney after this, and I'm super upset about it. So.
Oh. Well, you get out of there and have some fun with your kids, and
I will.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you guys.
Okay,
all right, take care.
You too.
Bye.
All right, guys. So that is our extra long 40th episode.
Wow, we're getting there.
I know. I mean, it's been a while. We're a little slow on the race. We should have a lot more episodes than this, but 40 is a pretty big number.
It is.
So with that in mind, there's so much more that we want to talk about on this topic, and initially we thought 2 episodes was going to be enough.
Totally not.
It's not. So we're going to shoot for just 1 more. Our plan is to get someone on to talk to us about being pro-life, and we have a couple more write-ins, but we're going to see if we can convince somebody to chat with us, because these stories are way too interesting to just hear us.
They are. And they're very heartfelt when we can actually get the women that went through the experience to come on and tell the story themselves. So we're going to try to get one more guest on for you guys so you can hear her experience and all of her struggles she's been through. So we'll see. We'll see if we can convince her. But if not, Jess and I will just read her experience for her.
Yeah, we're totally going to do that because we have that on hand. And you know what? I'm going to complain to you about something that has nothing to do with what we were just talking about. But this is just about
Tell me.
This is just about me being moody.
Okay.
So when I was pregnant with Justine, I would always, for whatever reason, want to have Taco Bell. Mainly because it was super close to my job. I could just walk there. And one day when I was like 7 months pregnant or so, I walking the freaking 2 blocks to Taco Bell, and it's freaking being remodeled.
No.
Yeah.
How dare they?
How dare they remodel Taco Bell when I'm pregnant, craving it? And
In the middle of your pregnancy, what were they thinking?
I know. And I had to walk all the way to Jack in the Box, which was like another couple blocks, and then I had to go all the way back. So I'm walking like freaking 10 blocks to get freaking fast food. It's horrible.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, tell me why. Today I wanted fucking Taco Bell.
No, they are not fucking remodeling. They are not.
I promise you, they are remodeling.
Dang, is it really that necessary? It's only been a couple years.
It's been 4 years. What do they need to remodel? That place is brand new. That's so rude.
Oh my God, of course. Straight extra pregnant. Oh, we got to remodel.
And I had to walk to freaking Jack in the Box, and I've had diarrhea all day. It's not even fair.
I'm surprised you didn't get diarrhea from Taco Bell.
Well, you know what? I don't eat the meat from Taco Bell. I only eat beans.
Oh my God.
Man. It's really upsetting.
Gosh. Clearly.
Anyway.
Oh, that's the Moody news for you guys.
Uh-huh.
Very upset about this, Taco Bell. We need you to contact us immediately.
Why?
We need an update on the construction site.
Who does that?
Damn, they got you.
It's my punishment, I guess, for wanting to eat fast food.
I guess. You should be making healthier choices.
I'm forced to. The universe is forcing me to make healthier choices.
Not really. You walked to Jack in the Box.
and I pass a Gelson's on the way. Like there's a health food store. And I just keep walking past it.
Like, nope. Can't go in there.
No.
Oh, yeah, you're too much.
I know, guys. Well, there's a little lighthearted humor for you guys after such a heavy episode.
Yes, this was such a heavy episode, so let us know what you guys thought about it.
Yeah, because we loved our guests so much, and they really touched our hearts. You should have. I mean, I had to edit it out, but in the end, after we were done with that last conversation, as soon as we hung up, the two of us did like the heaviest sigh of all time.
Oh yeah. It was a rough one. It's a very, very rough story, but I'm so glad her story is being shared with everyone that's listening, and we can all soak it in and just wow.
Yep.
You know.
And thanks to Brie for letting us laugh about it and not
totally two different ways that can go right there.
All right, everyone.
But you know what? Gotta deal with everything life has to throw at us. So
just stay moody. Say Moody Mommies.
Moody Mommies.
Moody Mommies podcast.